Keystone Heights Budget and Finance Workshop. Appreciate you guys all being here. Let's go through and do our roll call.
Mayor Rodenwell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Thompson,
Here.
Councilman Tony Brown,
Here.
Councilman Steve Hart.
Here.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Bobby Brown is not present, and I will check in with him later on.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
I have no public comment cards, however, I do suspect that we will be hearing some things from the public under community requests. And so before we get started, I want to let you know that I provided you with two documents. One is just a very, very, very general, and I stress very general, draft budget of general fund. I don't have the numbers in from the state yet, and so I'm pulling from last year's number. I do have a rough guesstimate supplied by the state for our ad valorem taxes. However, that has not been certified. Our certification letter for that has not been sent to us yet either. Going through our general fund, we've made some cuts, and we've had to go through some analysis on what things are going to cost with inflation and whatnot. Currently, just using last year's number and then plugging in where we are going to be experiencing some additional expenditures, we are at a deficit of $53,000. And now I say this especially because we have press here and we are live on YouTube. Understand that all of our income is generated off of last year's numbers. And so that number will fluctuate as we continue on through the budget process. This is just a very skeleton base so that you can see where we're falling at this moment. The other is one that has been sent out to you, and it's just an FYI for you to review. Mr. Kirkland is here in the audience, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but this is any questions regarding the airport budget. He is the expert on answering any questions. I am not, so if there are any questions as you review this, email them over to me, and I'll get them over to Mr. Kirkland and the airport manager, and they'll be able to answer them appropriately. So with that being said, Madam Mayor, typically we do conversations with the community. We do ask that everybody comes up to the podium and states who they are and what they're representing. Have conversations of their asks, their wish lists for the next fiscal year. I know Mr. Beals is not here. He's got some additional requests with that he approached council for the Kiwanis, especially relating to their kayak tournament. He did request, consideration for safety and security, consideration for the EMS services that will have to be on site, and then any additional services that they may need to provide, such as a dumpster or portalettes, if we move forward and find that those are going to be needed down at the beach.
Okay. So no other ones that we have formally?
Well, that's all that I know. That, like I said, Mr. Beals had addressed that in the last council meeting.
Okay.
With that being said, I know we have representatives from the Heritage Commission. We also have Ms. Collins here, who has who puts on our 5K run. We generally budget those asks into our CRA, which you do not have a copy of at the moment.
Okay.
And that's pretty standard budget. So any additional, I can plug those numbers in and get them to you at our next workshop.
Okay. Okay.
So this is really just to listen, have council be able to come together, hear from our community or organizational leaders, and then discuss in an open forum some things that you would like to see into next year's budget and conversations for projects.
Okay. So then I guess the next thing is to ask council, do you guys have any specific priorities that you can think of? Or go to...
I'm sorry, are we done with community requests?
No, Madam Mayor, you can hear from the community.
Oh, okay, so they can come up.
Like I said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
Go ahead. I didn't know if you had to have a card submitted. That's why I wasn't sure. Okay.
I didn't realize we had to do a public comment. Do we need to do a public?
No, absolutely not. We don't have any public comments. Public comments is generally for anything that needs to be presented or would like to be presented in general to the council.
That's my
However,
mistake.
one of it is
My
community
mistake,
requests.
sorry.
Okay, can I see?
Sure. Sorry about that misunderstanding.
It's not your fault. So, okay, so the funding for the parade, for our Country Day events comes from the CRA? Okay, and so, I heard you mentioned the general fund has a deficit? or
At-
will have a deficit?
At the moment,
Uh-huh.
I don't have the state numbers, projected numbers for our sales tax, gas tax, and things of that nature that reflect in our budget.
Mhm.
So utilizing this year's numbers, we currently are standing at a $50,000 deficit.
Okay, okay. And do you have copies of the draft?
You can, Miss Linda will be able to get them to you. And again, I say it is a very, very draft budget. These numbers, all of them will fluctuate and change. We've utilized very round numbers to get to where we're at. And then we will move forward with a more precise and very specific budget as we move forward. This
Okay.
is just for council's visibility on where we're standing, to
Just the
start our
first-
one-on-one
Yeah,
conversations.
just the first view, really, for us to look at and
Yeah,
discuss.
this is all going to change, not subject to, it will change.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for answering those. So, my name is Carrie Collins, and my address, my personal address is 6446 Brooklyn Bay Road. I also own a home here in the city that we use for an inn, the Inn at Palmetto. But I'm here today for the Freedom 5K, which is the 5K run that we put on for the Our Country Day events on the 4th of July every year, which has been a tradition in the city for, I believe, I saw 55 years in the newspaper, approximately. So it went on hiatus for 3 years when the former organization couldn't continue to put it on. So I have a nonprofit that I formed in honor of my niece who passed away 5 years ago. And it's the only fundraiser we do for the nonprofit. And we provide, out of those funds, we provide scholarships for the kids at Keystone Heights High School. So this past year, we provided 9 scholarships with 2 kids that, there wouldn't have been those scholarships if we hadn't provided it. Now, granted, some of the kids get other scholarships, but that's just the nature of the game. But we try and focus on, we give preference to ESC kids because my niece was an ESC student. And, but we invite all seniors to apply. And this year we had the most applications we'd ever had. It was crazy. So, and then the run this year was kind of crazy, just how it exploded. So I had no expectation of that whatsoever. I mean, it was, yeah. In fact, I think next year we may, just like y'all closed this road this year, we may have to close the library road in addition to that, because I know some of our volunteers, it was really hard with people with the parking and things like that. So just kind of forward planning. But what we ask from the city is to provide safety and security to fund the deputies that day, which they're deputies and they're PSAs. And we have 9 or 10, and this year we had 10. We could probably get away with 9, but it's just nice we have a supervisor, which is nice, someone who is in charge of the other deputies. And they block the roads, and they, just provide oversight and safety for the community. And if the event is going to continue to grow, I mean, they're definitely needed. And I will say that from an organizational standpoint of the run, the businesses help fund the race as far as the operational cost, and then the runners help fund the scholarships. And that's kind of how it breaks down overall. And we never know year to year who's coming, who's going to sponsor, and who isn't. So I can tell you, the first couple of years, if we had not had the money from the city, we wouldn't have been able to really give the scholarships we'd done. So it's beneficial, and it's for the community. I think for the city overall, the 4th of July to me is the biggest event put on. It's worthwhile as far as the investment that it takes. And because the county, they raised the rates on their deputies and whatnot, and it's on the 4th of July, we'd increase our budget ask. It used to be $1,500, and now it's $1,800. And I think with the admin fee, I'm not sure, Miss Jen might know, but I think it's actually might have want a little bit over 1,800, but it's right around there. To fund 10 deputies, the supervisor gets paid a little more, and then you have to pay the admin fee to the county for them to schedule and things like that.
So if we were thinking, say, of $2,000, that'd be roughly what you would need?
Yes, I mean,
Roughly.
because if it's not used, then it, you know what I mean, if it's, so say there were only 9 and it ended up being like 1,750, it would just
It just sunsets.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but, so we had 230-ish people registered this year. We had 220 actually run it, which was crazy because normally like 10% don't show up, and only like 5 or 6 people didn't get their bags. I mean, like, so the show up was incredible this year. And we also did packet pickup here at City Hall the night before out front. And I've never had this happen any other year. I showed up and there were like 20, 25 people out here waiting on me at 5:30. I mean, it was, I was like, I couldn't believe it. So, and we gave out like 40%, 40 to 50% of the people got their bags that night, which is what we want to do. We want all the locals to come the night before and pick up their bags. So about 90 people, I think, that night. So anyway, I talked to the timer. I'm like, do we need to cap the run? Is it, do we need a number that we say this is it? And he didn't think so because of the layout. It's all open and the streets and things, and it's all pretty spread out. So, he's the one that runs a lot of races, so I kind of rely on his professional judgment in that. So I'm going to I'm going to plan for 300 next year, just to plan. I mean, I don't know if they'll show up. It ebbs and flows, but it was a little hectic the last 24 hours before the race. So anyway, thank you for your consideration, and I hope we continue to have your continued support.
Thanks. Thanks, Carrie. We have any other community requests? No? Okay. So we'll move on to council priorities. You guys have anything specific?
I have 2. It's not like a stuck record, but the good old splash park. When we were up in Wisconsin, there's a splash park directly across the street from my daughter and son-in-law's house, and that place was packed. Always with kids from like 9 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Parents were there, grandparents. And I know there is community support for that. So that would be a priority that I have. I think it's important. Second one, I don't know where we stand with the storm sewer study. I know we've got water coming in probably less than a year or about a year from now. Where are we with that? That's my second priority.
Under the grant that we received from the North Florida TPO of Smart Cities, part of that is going to be a stormwater and drainage assessment. And then from that study, which should be conducted and completed by December of this year, we'll be able to look and see if there's any other technical uses or any other technical studies that we need to apply to get a good conceptual. And so my plan would be to build in some engineering fees for that as well, to add on what we're going to find from the North Florida TPO, and then go into the technical basis of our stormwater.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Chris?
My priority is just to finish what we've already started, finish up the projects that we're currently working on, and there are a few, I don't need to name them, but just to finish those up before we move on to anything else. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
I think we ought to all dance to her ringtone.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sorry.
I was going to read a quote, but I'll wait till council meeting to do that one. But yes, there's a couple. one of them has been for a number of years, is our tennis court. We all know that we've been told if we redo this tennis court, it's going to be taken all the way down and start all fresh. And I've been, over the past couple of years, I've been approached by people that have said that I'm a hard-nosed with change. And one of them would be this building. And I'm looking to the future and what is moving into this community in the way of population and the need for some other services. And this building is not going to handle it. I'm thinking maybe we need to look at a sports area, not some spectacular thing, but instead of personally wasting money fixing this tennis court, that we build a new one out in Sunrise. And possibly look at the splash park. I think we need to move that out there. We got plenty of room, and I think we need to take that area right there. I remember, and Chris, you might remember, it used to be a ballpark back there. That's where the city baseball field used to be. And so making that our city hall, building a new city hall. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but we work on building a new city hall, and we might as well do a 2-story one, and offer services for the sheriff's department to be in here, offer the different county offices to be in there. One thing, when we had to tear down the Keystone Inn across the street, we had a rendering of what a city hall would look like over there, a community center. And one of the things is we had in that building a historical room that would be the history of Keystone, a museum. Having a new building and planning it out, we could have that within the city hall. This is just my thinking, okay? So y'all just bear with me. We need a new library. If you go up to Fleming Island, they got, and it's an older library. I can't even talk, but they got state of the art. I mean, they got everything. And that library was here when I was a kid, and before that probably. But we could either tear this down and make more parking, which God knows we need more parking down here when we have 4th of July, or use this building for a new library and make that more parking. But we need to visualize what this block is going to look like in the next 5 years. This past 4th of July was crazy for parking. I mean, I got called all kind of names. I've got hand gestures when I was trying to just do my job, on that Oriole. But this area is getting populated, and maybe not just inside the city limits, but the whole area is growing, and they're coming here for our events, which is great. But we need to look forward in the future of what we're going to do about a new city hall. And I say that because I've been here a while, and I bucked it because of sentimental reasons. But we need to look forward to the future, and instead of spending, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars it would take to build a new tennis court here, put it out there and put your splash park or whatever. I think we do need to look at a new city hall.
Just a couple of observations or comments. A former city engineer actually recommended the splash park to be put across the street just because of parking and accessibility. If you go out to Sunrise, you're gonna have to do something with sidewalks, because right now, if you're gonna walk out there, which a lot of kids
Oh, I know.
do, yeah. So, I mean, I'm
There's-
getting in the weeds, but I think would be a good use for that property with that consideration. Splash Park, I still would prefer to see it
Oh.
across the street. That's just me. But I'm in favor of the city hall, new city hall concept.
I agree with the vice mayor. Our area downtown, we need to go ahead and get it done and make it look better. I was at the red light yesterday, and I feel sorry for our public works has to cut those little patches of grass and have to be there before everybody else is parked, because God forbid you hit a pebble and break a window, and
Can't get to it.
but and we can get that done in the next year or so. Not so, a year. I think we need to, if we have the funds, we need to go ahead and fix it. I'm done.
Good job. Okay, I love this energy. So the way I have to look at things is, I'm really echoing pretty much everything they've all said here already. Certainly, I think, the splash park, I think, is something to be looked at. The community has expressed interest in that. I already started pulling up some information on ideas of concept and cost and all the different things involved, and even not only having it built, but also what it's going to take to manage it, and insurance responsibilities, all those types of things. There's so many pieces of it.
And I can give you some information on that. The city of Stoughton actually Wisconsin owns their splash park, and I can get you some information on that.
Yeah, that's probably like, it'll be a whole nother workshop, so we could look and really see what is it we're actually looking at in consideration of that.
Yeah.
So, other things that I think about is certainly the whole thing with the Lawrence Skate Project, finishing up things that we'd already started on. I agree, downtown has got to get done. It's a priority. It has to get finished with our initial vision and what we have with the remaining money and what we're allowed to do with that money, or what we can do with that money. I want to see a business come downtown that is, and this involves potentially the alcohol license. Again, it's something I know that there's a lot of controversy about that subject, but I'd like to see something where people can go to a nice restaurant downtown and offer beer and wine, for example. If we have an open property that a business owner may want to acquire. And to me, I think about our future and down the road, 3 years, 6 years, whatever it is, potentially we do see growth. And again, as I mentioned in our workshop, our median age here is around 35 to 36 years old. And marketing to those individuals. I look at my own kids and see what they do in their social life. They like to socialize. They like to hang out. They like to meet their friends, have a drink, have dinner. I'm not saying having a big bar all bash or whatever. I'm just saying something that's really a classy situation. So that's one thing that I have a lot of interest in. Also, the City Hall concept. I mentioned at our meeting, our brand. Who are we? Our presence. As we continue to grow, especially with the tourists coming into our town, the potential growth that's happening all around us, like Tony just said, outside, right at all around us, but also within the city. I think we've really got to be armed to kind of how that's going to go. The building, of course, it could stand it, obviously, but also it has the multiple functionality of the building that could be offered if we can move forward to look at a new building and what all that would include. I think it would certainly be a nice addition. I'd like to see it. I'd love to see what they came up with at the what you were talking about.
I've got some pictures that.
What it would look like when the way the inn, when you said it was, or one of you said it was torn down.
Okay.
But those are just some key things. I'm just trying to think if there's something else that I have right off the top of my head. As I continue to learn more from businesses, I'll get more data on what they would like to see us have here. I've met a lot of folks from small towns all over. I mean, we were just in Woodlands, California, and saw, small town feeling like it's bigger than we are, but like events. I want us to have more events, like a July 4th event, but maybe a different type of venue or theme that helps bring those folks here. Like maybe it's 4 times a year we do something, right? I know we have the Christmas parade, that's a big deal. as is July 4th. But all the marketing, all the work that went into July 4th this year by everybody, all of you sitting here that participated in everything, all of you here, I mean, there was such a focused effort on it. And I mean, I am honestly so proud of the way it went. And you know, we didn't have any real issues, really. I mean, you may have got some people a little flappy about parking, but you know, we didn't have anything weird happen where the police had to get involved or anything like that. And with the sheer number of folks that were coming and going here, that's pretty impressive, I think, you know. So I don't see why we couldn't have, like, especially as we work toward the centennial coming, events happening, at least 4 in a year, that are really big, that drive communities even all around us and say, you know what, we're going down there. This looks like a lot of fun.
Nina, as I'm sure you're aware, we have the Friends of Keystone. They're
Yes.
actually working on that, and one of the concept is to have something going each month
Yeah.
during the year. And certainly if the city would participate with that, that'd be great.
Right.
But that's where we are with that, so
Yeah.
it's in the works.
But anyway, that's some of my comments. Mr. Towski, you have something you want to add?
So I'd like to have some more conversation about some of these, if I may. That way we can have some direction on how we approach this year's budget. And I'd like to address some of these projects in probably going backwards. Let me tell you, I'm pretty excited about the direction that this conversation went today. So moving backwards, when you talk about events, as a council, and this is why we have these workshops so that you can discuss with me freely so I can draft these budgets, is that something that the council is looking at, is having those types of large events periodically throughout the year instead of just showcasing, focusing one time a year. The reason why I ask is that's a different budget line for staffing, marketing, and things of that nature. And so as we move through the next fiscal year, we can have conversations on what that's going to look like. I'll let you know that we partner with the Chamber of Commerce. Last year we did it a little bit. We're expecting to be not as big as July 4th, but something similar as a Shop Small Saturday, starting with breakfast with sheriffs and Santa, and then having vendors behind City Hall, much like we did with 4th of July, and doing the Christmas tree lighting, and then light up downtown the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And if you were here last year, that was something pretty spectacular. And so being
Like you
able
did
to
the
grow
pancakes in the
that,
park.
my recommendation would be to make that one of our signature events. We have a lot of things that go on around the county, a lot of things that go around then our surrounding counties for December. And so pulling, not necessarily our Christmas event, because the Christmas parade is still very important and a tradition within Keystone Heights, but making a Shop Small Saturday something big so you can come and spend the day down in Keystone Heights the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We had it was very well attended with Sheriffs and Santa last year with the little marketing that we were able to do. So that's something to look at, and doing a very, very cool downtown, hometown Christmas theme.
Yeah.
But like I said, as a general conversation, is that something that council is interested in doing moving forward, because that is a lift for budgetary reasons. So
Let me just throw this in the mix. Good ideas. I like the direction. I have talked to a number of people who can remember when there were concerts. Granted, they were, I think, rock and roll. Okay, they could be anything else. It got all sorts of coverage on the Big Ape radio station. People were here. They still talk about it. Tony, you probably went to a couple of those. I would
go every Saturday.
Yeah, I would like to see something like that as an event, but not every month, maybe quarterly. And I don't think we need to book $25,000 acts. I think there's plenty of local talent around. There was a big fundraiser over the weekend where they made like $4,000 for a musician who had some health problems. There is interest. There are bands. I'd just like to see that facility at the beach used for that.
sure.
At least quarterly, yeah.
Lynn, can I ask you a question about the number of people that we had during the 4th of July? I think you mentioned it at the airport meeting, but I don't know that have you told everybody on council? I don't know if anybody in the audience.
So I haven't shared with council. We're still looking at getting
okay.
the specific pings of it. It's
Okay.
fluctuating with our different partners. However, I'm seeing nothing less than between 10 and 12,000 different pings, and what that means is that from the time that we began setup for the race through the time that the fireworks ended and we were doing cleanup, that we had 10 to 12,000 individual pings, and they collect that data through apps or whatever that you download on your cell phone, and that was in the downtown area. So that was a huge event.
Yes.
And our largest thus far. I think last year the numbers when I asked for them to be pulled was upwards of 6,000, 7,000 individuals. So this year was by far our largest.
It felt like it.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
It felt like it.
Can I beam off of something Steve said? And I was just thinking, concerts from way back when. I think it'd be kind of cool if we can, and this can happen because there's still some of them around. If we went back to a couple of these bands that were back in the 60s and the 70s and have a reunion. Start off, if you wanted to do a concert series, and we used to have a concert series. Had the Navy band here a couple of times. That was great, well attended. But if you did like a reunion to start a concert series, off, would be we can get some of these guys from the back then,
Tommy Manning would be one.
and there might be one still around that was on Tom Petty's group. So
Where were they held, Tony? At
the concert
beach?
at the pavilion, yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah. So
Now we got that
now we
stage.
got that stage and everything. That's nice. So that might be something if we were to ping off of something like that we start off. That can easily be done. Just put it out there.
That's a great idea. I would be in
Just have them all
favor of
come in
that.
for a jam
Absolutely.
session. So
On a wheelchair.
Especially in the cooler months.
yeah, cool.
I know we had, in high school, Stillwater was a really big band out of central Georgia, and they still have reunions in Macon, Georgia, pretty much every year. And I mean, it is sold out. Like, people come from all over to come see, even from outside the city. To tag on to what Lynn requested is the event that she mentioned during the holiday. Would that be an event that you all would like to see us continue to invest in, to do? I don't know how many of y'all, well, we all probably attended the parade, or I know we went, that was part of the Pancakes in the Park too, right? That
I'm
same
sorry?
time? The Pancakes in the Park for the Christmas thing you were talking about, the lighting of the tree and all of that was kind of all together around the same time, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember. I know I had
It
the-
was geared to be a day-long event where
Yeah.
you started your day, and this year we're going to start a little bit later. 6 o'clock in the morning, flipping pancakes was a little bit early, and
Yeah, we came
Keystone Heights
down.
gets up at 7 to eat pancakes. It doesn't matter if Santa and the sheriff are here or not.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it was designed to be a day-long event where you came down, it was a breakfast put on, came and talked to Santa, had his wish list. He's already committed to be here from the North Pole, again with the sheriff's office. Have our vendors here throughout the day, and because it gets dark right around 6 o'clock is when we threw the switch, and it was pretty spectacular. The entire downtown was lit for the first time for our Christmas season. So
Well, I really love how it was so different. Like the whole Pancakes in the Park. My kids were here, and we walked over for it, and they loved it. They thought everybody likes pancakes. I mean, especially little kids. Of course, Santa was sitting right there, available to anybody that walked up, and of
And
course,
Buddy.
sheriff, all the deputies and all. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Buddy, right?
And
He was
Buddy.
hilarious. But I think, I thought we saw a pretty good turnout on that. But
did.
we go and put some of the marketing effort that went into the July 4th. It's hard to say what that could turn into, like really a lot of folks, because how many people actually go to that effort, having all of that to do in one day like that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Heritage Commission is going to be doing a house walk around Christmas time.
Yes,
So you might want to fold that in.
2024.
Oh, 20, not this year, next year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all are talking about it like an inside tour, right? Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
So with that being said, then my question is more general to council as we move forward. Are those the types of things that you would like to see embedded in the budget? Because like I said, it is a lift. And that's something that we'll have to go through and finesse those numbers to create as far as advertising goes and things of that nature. We do have our CRA funds. We do that our agency, our area benefits greatly from having that kind of visibility. You know, businesses downtown will benefit from 10,000 people being here just from visibility alone. And then we can talk more in depth on what those two other events after the turn of the calendar year. So,
If
but
you're-
is that the consensus of council to look at building something like that in, to have 4 signature events seasonally throughout the year?
And if you go with say the quarterly band thing, if you budgeted say $600 to $800 per event, that'd be plenty, because you're not going to be bringing in headliners from New York, but that you would get good bands for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then my next conversation, where do I want to go with this? We've talked about stormwater, and that'll be built in through our engineering fees. Let's talk about the splash park and Councilman Brown's idea of building out Sunrise Park, and I wanted to address a couple of things that Councilman Hart mentioned as well. So if that is the desire of council to look at moving the tennis courts, basketball courts, and making that more of a sports complex, things like sidewalks can be taken care of. It's going to cost a little bit of our engineering fees. There is a Safe Routes to School. I'll tell you, the North Florida TPO, they're looking for small cities of, you know, how do you have accessibility throughout your areas? And so it would just be engineering coming out, making sure that we can lay sidewalks, but we can get that funded, not all next year or the year after, but we can start piecing that out so that our general concept is to have walkability to Sunrise and
Yeah.
then build that out as well. I will mention one of the early conversations with the splash park, and with it being across the street, are the use of restrooms. We don't have any restrooms built at the natural park. We have restrooms here behind City Hall. We have restrooms at the beach. We have restrooms out at Sunrise Park. We have a lot of public areas with restrooms in our 1.2 square miles. And so looking at what we have, I encourage council to look at what we have currently and building off of that, because is there a need to add another park with restroom facilities within that area, or can we utilize what we have already? And those are conversations that I would encourage you to think about or have while we're talking about this build out, because that is an additional financial lift. So with that being said, that's something that I can start having conversations with our partners and look at what that's needed for our budget for this next fiscal year. Will be planning, but is that something that council's interested in exploring, is building out Sunrise to more of a sports complex, and our recreational facility, have our park here at the beach, and then having all of our sports areas at Sunrise with accessibility.
Christina?
Can I say something here?
Sure.
Christine Arnold. I live at 505 Southeast Palmetto, right across the park. I look at this park every day, sometimes for hours because I'm in my garden. I have a suggestion for the splash park. How about the Rotary Circle? Could that be retrofitted with the spigots, and where we could still utilize the pad when we're not using the splash park, but it would be right there. We have the tot lot right here where the mothers come with small children that would be utilizing it. We have the restrooms, we have the cameras.
You're asking me that? I'm just trying to equate.
It's a suggestion.
No, I like the idea. I'm just trying to, in my mind, think about the acreage. The one in Wisconsin that gets a lot of use also includes a pavilion. But the splash park itself, you could probably squeeze it in half an acre,
Oh,
3/4 of an acre.
That's pretty large.
Have you ever seen Greencomb Springs?
No, I have not. Well, and
I would suggest they have a little fountain thing off their spring that is super cute.
yeah,
And it's compact.
Yeah.
I think it would fit in that area.
Yeah.
It's a great-
I mean, even when I was looking myself, it was, there's so many different sizes it could be. based on the population that potentially would serve, which
I
is
was
how
looking
you
at
want to
the one
build
at
it forward.
Downtown Disney is fairly small. You
Yeah.
can sit around on,
There's-
this has the
it's all a
benches
function
and
of
everything.
cost.
Yeah.
The one in Wisconsin has not only the splash park with 4 or 5 different things that the kids can play with water, they also have a merry-go-round that gets total, complete use. And they've got a musical thing where, like a xylophone, and then they've got like a jungle gym type of an arrangement similar to what's down here.
Hold on. Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, please,
Yeah,
for our audio purposes and for minutes purposes,
Mm-hmm.
when conversations is had with the audience, we can't hear nor can we pick it up.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah,
for
so-
conversations, it's very difficult, and you've mentioned it several times, when you try to go back and rewatch, you cannot hear, so that's why we do ask that they come and
Come
speak
up.
to the
Okay.
microphone. Thank you.
I forget about the whole audio thing.
Also, I would really be in favor of having a new city hall over there. This is, you wouldn't believe the people that use this on a daily basis, especially this area. It's all the small children basketball courts are used constantly. I think it would be wonderful just to keep this area as a park, you know, and just put our municipal, I mean, the library, if we wanted to put parking, flatten that one and put it over here. We needed the library anyway, a local history section or something. That's it.
Thank you, dear.
I'd like to reinforce what she mentioned, just because I do own a home right here on the park, and while I understand the age of the city hall building, I think there are higher priorities within the city to put the money toward, and we're not the county, we're the city. So moving something out to Sunrise, even if it's the tennis courts, is like a county thing. Do you know what I mean? You're like you're on the outskirts of the city limits at that point. Like, this is the focus of the city itself. I mean, I don't know what it costs to resurface those tennis courts, but I
It
mean,
won't be a resurface, it'll be a
well,
tear
whatever
down.
it is, I mean, this is the hub of the community, and to encourage someone to come to Food Truck Friday and their kids to run across the street and shoot some hoops or play some pickleball, or, you know, and I think if this is just my own personal opinion, if the splash park didn't impact the tree, of course, but I think the playground equipment could be refitted or redone. I mean, I think there's a vision for how, you know, you could spend some money and make it something nice, but we're talking about the best, for me personally, when you're talking about the best use of the money of the city, it's, you know, services for the city residents, but also, you know, what the community feel is for the city itself. And I mean, the reality, a new city hall building, while it would be great, it's gonna house the people that work there and, you know, the meetings that happen, you know? I mean, so is that the best use of spending a lot of money?
Well, one of the things, Carrie, that I had heard is the Heritage Commission was interested in having a museum. And having a new municipality building, you could place that museum in one building instead of going out and trying to find something inside the city limits to have a museum, and it would be incorporated into the city hall.
Well, I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, even over $1 million. I mean, it was $900 to rehab the pavilion.
Mhm.
So to build a new building, I mean, I think I don't want to get into this, but because I know someone else has worked really hard on it, but I think that ask is around 10 grand. I mean, those are like apples and oranges conversations to me. And, you know, I understand about, you know, wanting a new building and wanting it to be more modern and things like that. But I think the reality of the size of the city, the tax dollars we have, and without aggressively, you know, pursuing, you know, annexation or, you know, getting more people to come into the city limits, you know, focusing on finishing what you started, including city sewer, you know, I mean, which is a different conversation, but I think retaining for the historical aspect of this is the hub of the city and keeping everything here, I don't know. Like I said, it's my own personal opinion.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Carrie. Appreciate it.
Playing off of Christine's idea, perhaps we could take a look at putting the splash park and maybe a small recreation area behind City Hall. You've got the bathrooms already. I think would be a good use of that property. I like your idea.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate y'all's input. Next. Any-
I think Miss Deirdre would like to have conversations with council.
Okay,
Town versus.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this on already? Okay. Well, today, I'm Deirdre Murphy, for the record, and I'm with the Heritage Commission. And today, I would like to discuss with you the Heritage Commission's request to put in a museum. So I just wanted to start off with saying Mayor Rodenroth, Vice Mayor Chris Thompson, council members Steve Hart and Tony Brown, thank you for allowing us to take the time today to represent the commission in your budget. The Heritage Commission is proposing an annual budget to be increased from $4,000 to $5,000, and a one-time increase in our budget that would revert back the following year to our regular $5,000 budget. This would allow us to make a purchase to lay down the foundation where we can begin to preserve the history of Keystone Heights. As we move forward and we reach the centennial in 2025, our 100-year journey of Keystone Heights, we envision this city prosperous and we move forward with an eye to the future. But we also need to preserve the past. And the Heritage Commission is looking to create a museum to house all the memorabilia that we already have, but under one roof. Some of you may not realize that in the cabinets behind you, we have a lot of the memorabilia. We also have some items stored in the maintenance facility that is behind Hitchcock's. We have other items located across the street in the Welcome Center, none of which is true public access, and nothing's on display, and there is no one there that's qualified to discuss anything about our history or knowledge about our history, even if the public were to come into the Welcome Center. The goal would be to have a small building surrounded maybe by a little white picket fence. We want to keep the charm of Keystone. We don't want a 2-story big structure that says we're Orange Park or we are Middleburg or we are Gainesville. We want to keep that charm. And so we're looking to have a small building, like I said, with maybe a little low white picket fence where we could archive all of our documents in one place. We also have documents in Green Cove Springs. And those with our historian, Christine Arnold and Vichy Gehrig, we could go through those documents to determine what should stay there and then what the public might want to see. The Heritage Commission envisions this building to be located on city property. We thought through many of the details, which I'm going to provide you in a proposal. But most importantly, the commission needs to know that the city council is standing behind us and agrees with our position that there's no better time to recognize the history of Keystone Heights than the centennial. It just seems like these two things really go hand in glove. With your approval, we would like to increase our budget and we would purchase a prefabricated building. Building from scratch is a lot more expensive. So we'd like to have this prefabricated building placed on site in early 2024. Then we would be in position to make the necessary modifications to house our documents. While this sounds ambitious, The Heritage Commission has already proven that we collectively have the skill set and can execute programs for the public that not only have immense visibility within the city, but have involved residents of all ages. What better time than the Keystone Centennial to introduce the Keystone Heights Historical Museum? What better time to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony with the mayor and all the council members? We would like the commission to purchase a 12 by 24 shed, if you will, from one of the local businesses here in town, Superior Sheds, I believe it's called, over in 100. They gave me a cost of approximately $8,200. Then the shed can be modified with a window, doors, drywall, flooring, paint, electrical, AC unit, perhaps a covered porch, a ramp so that we're ADA compliant. And we envision this all coming together by engaging the community. This is a community opportunity for people to help us preserve our past. When you engage the community and get them directly involved, it creates ownership. So the commission would like to reach out to all the skilled providers that could provide those items I just listed and have them donate their time. Then we might only have to cover the cost of the materials. And I'll bet, though, that some of those businesses might even cover those costs. An idea might be to place a plaque on the building, giving the contributors recognition for their service. The Heritage Museum would be a focal point in the community for all that we are celebrating. We can then go back and say, look, the people who came here to Keystone Heights, they had the vision to make this place their home. And we're honoring that past, but with an eye to the future. The commission is requesting an increase in our annual budget from the $4,000 to $5,000, and then a one-time increase of $9,000 for a total of $14,000. This would give us the ability to purchase the building and also to continue to provide the successful programs we already offer the community. We'd like to have this project completed by 2025. Our past record shows that we can execute. We have a phenomenal team. We all work together. We also have a small group we call associate members that are volunteers that you don't normally see in organizations. Those volunteers really help us leverage what we have within the Heritage Commission, which is a very small group. We have the leadership, though, in place that gives us the cohesiveness we need in order to take this project to completion. This team with the community support can make an impact. The details of what we're envisioning are provided for you in the proposal I'm going to hand to you in a minute. But we are looking to you to provide the funds to make this happen. We're looking for 2025 for the Heritage Museum grand opening during the centennial. So the reason I'm coming here today is that we did not want to go to the city hall meeting and just surprise you with this. We wanted you to have the opportunity and the time to look at what we're talking about, because we've really thought through the whole process. And that way, when we come to, I guess we have to go to the council to actually make this proposal, but I figured then it would just be we would just want to increase in our budget. This way, we give you the opportunity to kind of digest what we're looking at. So we have done a site analysis. We've looked at possibly the nature park across the street that has security cameras and whatnot. And then the Keystone Beach, just to the left of the jungle gym, with direct access from the parking lot right there at the top of the hill. We looked at the design concepts to take in safety issues, ADA compliance, lighting, security camera placement, And then signage to keep in line. Tony, you remember all the stuff we did with signage? It took 4 years to get signs. So we want to use that same signage for the Heritage Museum, everything to be cohesive within the community. We've broken down the scope of the work into 5 different phases, everything from if permits need to be required, the installation of the building and having it set, down to enlisting all of the trades, the volunteers, how we would go about connecting sidewalks, putting in mini splits, gutters, perhaps drywalls, etc., down to getting carpenters to build cabinets. And I have photos for you to look at as well, shelving, how we would basically archive everything, down to landscaping that we can probably bring in the garden club of the lakes to do all of our landscaping. So I'm trying to bring in the entire community into this. And then lastly, the actual installation of the items that we are going to be putting into the museum. So in conclusion, we would like to have a grand opening ceremony, and I have a little bit more about the budget for you to look at. But we just want to work with the Heritage Commission. We just want to preserve our artifacts, and we know that we need to preserve the history of Keystone. I think there's no better time than the centennial. And if it's okay with you all for me to bring you the proposal I've put together, can I come up there and
Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
You guys have some questions?
I do, when we go down.
Oh, and we're also here to talk about any other
Yeah.
Heritage Commission stuff because we got half the.
What were the dimensions of the building you were talking about?
12 by 24.
Okay.
So that's like 4 feet longer than my current she shed that I have. Mine's a 12 by
It's
20.
not really large, but we can get a lot in it.
Yeah, it's all about, yeah, how you,
Have you been into the historical building in Melrose?
Why, yes,
I bet you have. So have I. And it's not very big. Can I?
Actually, there's photos of that.
Yeah.
And this picture on the front of the proposal actually is the Heritage Museum over in Keystone.
Yeah.
And over in Melrose, rather.
You're talking about construct, I'm sorry.
And so, got one for Tony.
okay.
And you can kind of see what it looks like inside.
Lynn's gonna need something.
Can I just throw out it's probably a strange idea, but the Heritage Commission looks to the past. And if you're going to build a prefab shed, it's gonna look like a prefab shed.
No, it will not.
Well, okay. Okay, perhaps I'm incorrect, but my idea, just off the top of my head, is go out and find yourself a 30-foot long retro Airstream. And it's already got wiring, it's already got plumbing. Sure, it's going to create some work, probably find one that needs a lot of work, but I doubt that the budget would exceed the cost of the building. And build your, got it, and then put your, okay,
No,
okay.
no.
Huh?
You know, I'm in real estate, as all of you know.
Right.
And I can tell you what it costs. It would be a lot, 3-4 times the amount to build something. That's the beauty of these sheds. If you've ever been over to the Rodenroths and have seen Nina's she shed, and I'm sorry just mentioning it because you've transformed. It does not look like a shed. My shed looks like a shed. Her shed does not. And so once you put windows, a door, drywall it, put flooring in, and electricity. Now, when you look at the proposal from Superior Sheds, it's going to exceed the amount that they originally told me, which was $8,200. However, there's about $700 there that is sales tax, which the city would be immune from. And then I also noticed that when they came down to the detail, it already included the electric, it already included the doors, it already included the windows. So yes, it's a little over the 82, but it has all of these inclusive things that I did not realize they added on. Because I told them exactly what we were looking to try and accomplish. And once you put drywall inside, it changes. It does not look like a shed anymore. And you can have the roof be whatever color you want. We've thought about the design elements so that it could be a blue roof and white building to keep it in concert with the city hall look and the gazebo across the street, or we could go towards, if we put it into the park, do we want to mimic the colors of the pavilion? So we can design it however we want. And then if it's over at the park, you have the security element already built in. So you have surveillance, you have gates, fences, and also when we do the Florida League of Cities, we can highlight that. We can take people right from the pavilion over to our museum, people that are coming to the park, and they're on the jungle gym, the kids are going to have access. And we envision in the beginning that it would be staffed by people on the Heritage Commission. And down the road then, maybe we could incorporate some of the students from the school, that they could have volunteer hours, and they would earn community volunteer hours. And so we might have it open, say, on a Wednesday or Saturday, and we would set up hours and regulate all of that, the commission would. And of course, we would work with Lynn and everyone else to discuss that.
Would this shed require a cement slab?
No.
So
No,
it
they
already
would,
has the flooring in
would,
it?
this cost would include them coming, putting it in, setting it up, leveling everything out. Now, if we want to make it cute, we're going to have to put the skirting around it and landscaping, that kind of thing, which again, we can reach out to our community vendors, and I would bet anything that we could get all of this work done.
So what would the shed be sitting on? Right on
It
the
would
ground?
be, yeah, it would be right,
Mine sits over.
yeah, they set them right.
So if I may interject, there's going to be some additional costs because there's going to be electricity that's going to have to be pulled. There's going to be additional surveillance costs and things of that nature. This is the first time that I'm able to see this. Yes, the cement slab is going to have to be laid. I understand that for the foundation of the shed and just putting in a shed generally. However, we are a government facility on government property and have government insurance, and so there's going to be additional stipulations that are going to have to that are going to be involved in that. This is something that I would like for council to absorb a little bit and then come back with questions that you have. This is a very large ask, and there's a lot more involved in this from the city's perspective and then from costs that would need to be built into it as well.
And that's why I'm here presenting today, because I didn't want to come to the council meeting
Yeah, you
and
did.
just throw you,
That's the right thing.
blindside you. I wanted to come here today, so you had, just like Lynn said, an opportunity to sit down and explore this further, and to look at all of the things that, what Lynn just described as we have to do it this way because we're a city entity, versus just putting it in the ground.
Do you have anything to add?
We'd also have to get a building permit.
Yes, that's correct.
Building
We need
permit
building
and-
permit inspections as well as hurricane rating, things of that nature.
Yeah. and-
Don't we know people?
Well, I mean, it goes right back, so mine's personal. We did not have to have a building permit with mine. Legally, it wasn't required. But government property.
I do address
different-
that
Whole
in,
different story.
I do address that.
I had to get a
Again, you
permit
haven't
when
had
I
it.
put one in. Oh, well.
It's actually not.
It probably wouldn't be an impact fee because it's non-residential, is that correct?
There would not be an impact fee. We would need to get an exemption from the, I mean, so there's a lot of things when you put something up there
Yeah.
that are involved in this.
Right.
St. John's River Water Management District, things of that nature, additional, just stuff that needs to be looked at, not,
It's a whole nother component that we
Right.
have to consider.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What were you gonna say?
That makes sense.
I don't have anything to say about this, but I do have a couple questions. Does the Heritage Commission, have they done anything about the history of the railroad coming through Keystone?
Well-
Have you ever looked into that?
I did some research on that, but that came up at a council meeting, a couple of years ago? And I did some research on that. I think, Lynn, you have that?
That's right.
I
you
do,
did.
and then we're looking at one of the designated plaques for our trailhead.
Yeah, this was a spur line, basically, is what it was. It went all the way to Palatka.
Mhm.
And it was abandoned, I don't know, several years ago, but yeah, just some work been done on that.
The other thing is the history of the Keystone Heights Volunteer Fire Department in this community, and the people in this community that volunteered hours and hours and hours and hours to this community for fighting fires and going out and picking them up when they had to go to the hospital and stuff.
I think, Tony, that it would be a really great idea that if you would come to the Heritage Commission and propose that, I think that everyone would love to hear that.
I have
And-
two tubs of historical stuff on the fire department that I need to get
Right.
out of my
And it
closet.
needs to be seen by everyone, hence the
Yeah.
museum.
Can I throw?
But I would love you to come to the Heritage meetings and propose that we look at both of those items.
Can I throw out one more idea, if you don't like my Airstream idea? Take a look at some of the old pictures of the original City Hall, which sat right there. Instead of getting a shed, get a contractor to come in, give us a good price, and stick build something that maybe 800 square feet, something like that.
And you're looking at $80,000.
I don't know what we're looking at. I don't know what we're looking at, but we already have the bathrooms
I
and
know
stuff.
what we're looking at.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, it would be cost prohibitive. It would be like saying, let's take down this building and build another building. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars to build another city hall. It's millions.
I'm talking
It-
a small building.
I
Not-
know, it's
yeah,
still,
yeah.
it's still
Okay.
a lot,
Just-
more than
just
you think.
Throwing that out, we got the land. And if-
I know,
And if you followed the original look of the original City Hall, then you are actually acting like a Heritage Commission by restoring the look. Just an
Well,
idea.
I know that as part of the Heritage Commission, we voted on an amount of money to come here and propose to you. I would love to be able to come to propose a stick built on the corner and ask for 100,000, because I know that's what it would take. But we're not. We're asking to do something smaller in scale because we know this is a small community. We do have a budget, and we're trying to get the job done by incorporating the trades and all of the people in Keystone to volunteer their services to make it part of their own. And to do that on a small scale is, anybody can say, let's throw $100,000 at it and get it done. But is that really the best use of that money? So we really thought through this. And at the Heritage Commission, we voted on this amount to come forward to present you with. We're just asking for that amount in a one-time, and then leave the rest to us, because we have already proven we execute.
Well, I appreciate you
Thank you.
sharing all this with us, and we'll put together any questions so that we can pose them, just like
All right.
Lynn had mentioned. So we
Thank
can kind
you
of move
all.
on, look at the details. Thank you very much. All right. You ready to move to our budget?
Well, and then this is something that it was all kind of all in one. Like I said, it's very fluid, this is going to change, now it's subject to change, this is going to change. This was really in hoping that I could have conversations with council and then get some form of direction on what it is that you would like to see. Given the time, I will be setting up one-on-one conversations so that we can look at priorities, what your thoughts are moving forward, and then we will come back together. I did send out an email earlier today of some proposed dates and times for an additional workshop in August. And then over the next couple of weeks, I plan on meeting with all of you probably at least twice.
Okay.
Just a general question, where are we with bonding? I think we're bond-free at this point, aren't we?
I'm sorry?
Do we have any municipal bonds outstanding?
That's correct. No, we don't have any outstanding.
Okay,
We
so
are
we've got
bond-free.
plenty of headroom there.
I'm sorry?
We have headroom
Yes.
if we chose to finance something that's larger. Okay. That's all.
Okay, we good?
We're good.
All right. 11:11, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I apologize, I should have probably done this during public comment. I didn't think about it till Councilman Hart mentioned about the splash park. I was attending Bradford County Commissioner meeting last Thursday, and Sheriff Gordon Smith brought up an issue about, to the commission about considering cooling zones. As we all know, we've been under a lot of heat advisories. They've had multiple calls at their emergency center. I don't know if the city has actually gotten calls here about people's air conditioning being out extended period of time. So they're appealing to the local community, churches, library, city council, or city halls to maybe open those areas up as a cooling zone for just certain periods of time while these extreme heat advisories are impacting us. So just wanted to share that with the council as a heads up. I know it's something that all of the local communities, apparently according to Sheriff Gordon Smith, is considering, and they're making an appeal because there is a dire need for that. So just food for thought as something to consider. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
And I will speak to this as Mr. Kirkland's point. He brought up something fantastic, and that's a concern that we've had. I know that our churches are looking at being able to work together, opening some of their facilities, especially now that VBS is over. The amount of calls that we have received and experienced personally over the past week with AC units just not being able to handle what they're doing, that's a real need. And so there is movement within our community for that to be done, and then reaching out and making sure that
Just
individual needs are
a
met.
thought too on that is the high school turns a portion of it over to the big cafeteria area, I guess, for hurricane shelters.
Mhm.
I wonder if the schools might be interested in participating in that.
That's something we've had conversations with the new emergency management director.
Mhm.
Mr. John
Bless
Ward
you.
bless you, has retired. And so Mr. Michael Ladd is our new emergency management director, and that's
Mhm.
one of the things that he had brought up that they're looking at moving forward.
That would seem to be a good fit.
Yeah, they have the personnel and the experience and the capability of running that.
All right. Well, we all good? Good. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Meeting's adjourned.